Virginia, Mr. Griffith, for 5 minutes to ask your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I apologize to our witnesses today that I had a markup in another committee that I had to be at, so I've got an update on what's going on. Chairman Carr, I represent a lot of small jails that are concerned with the cost of operating a phone system for the inmates, which is a tough balance. I understand the need for prisoners, particularly inmates awaiting trial, to have reasonable communication rates, and I get that, but can you briefly talk about the useful, all of your standards and what you've been doing to try to make sure that smaller jails in rural areas, et cetera, have the ability to meet that balance, to be able to provide it? Because some of my jails have talked about not allowing them, any communication because they can't afford the equipment to make sure that the calls are made in a safe manner and in a proper manner. And as a former criminal defense attorney, I'm concerned because I don't want to have to go to if I were to return to that practice of law, I wouldn't want to have to go to the jail every time I needed to talk to one of my clients.
Well, thank you, Congressman, for your work on this. And this is an issue that is very important. It's very complex. As you note, on the one hand, we want to make sure that incarcerated individuals and their families can continue to communicate. At the same time, we have an obligation to jails and the broader community to make sure those communications take place with technology that ensures safety. The FCC over the years has tried to strike the right balance, and it's been difficult. There's been at least 6 different FCC actions, I think 4 different court cases or challenges. Congress came together in the Martha Wright Reed Act and gave us additional authority. And the FCC recently revised some of the rates. The rates are higher than the rates that were initially set the first go-round by the Biden administration. They're lower than the rates initially set by the Biden administration. They're higher than the rates the Biden administration set at the end. But to your point, what we were seeing with those last round of Biden rates is that they were too low in some circumstances, that inmates were getting denied calling services because the jail couldn't afford it, or they couldn't afford the technology to make sure the communications are safe. So it's a complex issue with really well-intentioned people on all sides of this, and we have a proceeding right now to see if we can't, once and for all, strike a right balance here.
Thank you. And as I said before, I have a fairly rural district. It's pretty large, got some mountains in the way of some of this stuff. And so we've had some success, and some of my folks really like Starlink. But we need competition competition is always good for bringing down prices. What is the FCC doing to try to promote additional providers in that space? And what are your goals on reforming the satellite licensing and so-called Earthlink connections?
Yeah, thank you, Congressman. One thing that we're doing is taking a technology-neutral approach. There's many portions of this country where a high-speed fiber connection makes sense, but we have to be open-minded where cost per location exceeds a certain point, in which case you need to then look at other technologies like fixed wireless, like LEO systems, and that's what we're doing. We're making sure people can compete on a level playing field.
And I appreciate that, because there are some areas of my district where there's 1 house, 2 houses, maybe 3 houses up a holler, and it would cost us a minimum of $100,000, maybe as much as $200,000 just to get fiber to those couple of houses, and there's no way you'd ever recoup the costs. So I appreciate that. I appreciate also that the Commission has opened a docket to tighten foreign ownership standards for FCC licenses. Could you explain the difficulty in sorting out increasingly complex ownership structures sometimes used by licensees?
Yeah, we have rules and regulations on the books to try to make sure that we can process that. We obviously want investment in this country, but we need to make sure that there are security checks in place. And we've been taking a number of actions, again, to try to strike that right balance.
I appreciate that. I will tell you, my team thought we ought to have a little bit of fun, so I was requested to ask, and I have some questions we have to put for the record, but you don't have enough time to answer them with what I have left. But I was requested to ask, which one was your favorite in eliminating FCC regulations? Did you prefer or have more fun eliminating regulations on phone booths or telegraph lines?
It's funny. I was going to before you said it, I was going to say telegraph. Yeah, we had so much dead wood in our regulations that there were still rules that tied back to telegraph service, and I think that was a good one to get rid of.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why sometimes you have to take a look at everything and eliminate those things that are no longer appropriate. I yield back, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Excuse me, Madam Chairman.